Okay, we're now live on my personal Facebook page, my Nothing But Nuggets Facebook group, my REI Giver page, and most importantly, YouTube. So let me. Here we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Nothing But Nuggets show. This week we're switching up a little different. I'm using a different background. If you're not following me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, CEO929. Obviously, you're on my Facebook page, and follow me on YouTube. Today I have a very special guest, straight out of South Carolina, Willie Coleman. He's a investor. He just turned 19 years old, and he has dominated his backyard. So everybody, welcome Willie to the Nothing But Nuggets show.
What's going on, Antoine?
What's up, brother?
How you doing?
Show everybody know who you are, where you from, and how you got started in real estate.
Absolutely. So, yeah, my name's Willie Coleman. I'm out of Greenville, South Carolina. My story's kind of to the point. It's nothing crazy special, but long story short, about 6 years ago, my parents are in the fix and flip business, and I've always been around real estate. I've always been around entrepreneurship. I actually used to do demolition and work on their properties. And so again, I've always I've had that hustler's mindset. I used to buy and sell stuff, sell on Craigslist and offer up. So I'm sure we'll get into that later. But bottom line is, probably about 5 years ago, I said, hey, look, how can I work smarter and not harder here? And I started in real estate. So I started to wholesale. And then from there to this day, we do fix and flips, wholesales, buy and hold, whatever makes sense for the deal, sub to creative, stuff like that.
So 5 years ago, let me get my math right. 5 years ago, you was 14 years old.
That's right.
You know what's crazy, man? You have a similar story. I started off working dinner with my granddad. Rest in peace, my granddad. He passed about a month ago. I was around the business. Unfortunately, my grandfather didn't have the capacity to understand that real estate is better than having just a demolition company. So yeah, I can kind of resonate with that. So you currently you set your company up and you do fix and flip. Do you have anybody that you work with, or is just you're a one-man show?
Yeah. So the way we're structured is myself. Obviously, I run the day-to-day, the business stuff. Okay, raising capital. Actually, checking on a contractor, stuff like that. But I have on the wholesale side and the marketing side, we run by VAs, kind of like your structure, right? Like we do cold calls. We have RVMs. So I have 2 full-time cold callers and a lead manager that kind of filters all that. She sets the appointments for me to either go on or have a virtual appointment with the seller. And then from there, what we'll do is, like, I had an acquisitions guy, and he would be the one to kind of lock it up. But he was with us for, I guess, 7 months, and you know how it goes. Like, oh, I see what you're doing. I think I can do it now. And he says, oh, I can do it myself, right? So, typically, I'll either work with other wholesalers to kind of be able to do a lot more, or kind of do the deal ourselves, A to Z.
Awesome. So here's a burning question that I want to ask you personally. How in the world a 19-year-old kid who's doing what he's doing handle the responsibility to be a manager of money, right? You're taking on people's money to do fix and flips, and then you're making all this cash wholesaling. How in the world do you handle that without getting out of hand? Because you're still 19. You still got a lot to me growing up to do. You still got to make some mistakes. How in the world do you handle making sure you don't fall into the traps of being immature?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that question, so I like it. Honestly, I've always, like I said, I've always been around entrepreneurship. Even at the age of 14, 15 years old, I would make money, right? Like I'd make $4 or $5 grand a month just by working on houses and going and buying and selling like appliances and stuff from Lowe's, right? So I've kind of been able to make money at a young age that most people that age weren't making. So, for me, I like my mindset coming up was just, hey, entrepreneurship. It takes money to make money. You have to, obviously, I don't necessarily believe in saving money. I believe in, making money to invest the money and kind of just going that way. And I think the way I look at it is like, I've never been the person that, I want to put my money into, materialistic things, clothes, jewelry, whatever. It's just like my thing is like I'm a very like I get what I need, and I don't really do anything else. Right? I may travel a little bit, you know, buy some things that I really like, but honestly, it's just understanding that, you know, from a young age, I guess, is having those funds. It kind of helped me to when I'm talking, you know, obviously hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time. It's a lot easier for me to say, look, okay, well, I pay myself X amount of dollars a month to cover personal expenses, et cetera, and everything else that I make is in the business, right? So to be honest, when there's money that when we sell a house and make 50 grand on it, it doesn't necessarily, you know, it's not coming to Willie Coleman's account. It's going to my business account, and then Willie Coleman gets paid X amount a month, and it's just going to stay in the business and go to the next deal. You know what I mean? So
right.
Honestly, exactly how to answer your question, I'm not sure what about me doesn't, you know, want to say, oh, what I do.
So Will, I can call you Will, right?
Yeah. Perfect.
So Will, let's dive into a little deeper, right?
Okay.
You must have some good people around you. Your parents must be a really big impact on what you do as a man.
Absolutely.
And I sense, you know, I think I talked to you back in Houston. That was the last formal conversation, man, you had, you know, one-on-one. Mm-hmm. And you haven't told me any of this stuff. So I sense that, correct me if I'm wrong, your parents may be like very organized and some spiritual type people. Am I correct?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. That's the cool thing too about us. Like my whole family's entrepreneurs, right? I had that, and and I'm very fortunate because a lot of people didn't have that. Wow, this is who you can follow, right? Like, not you know, my brother's an entrepreneur. He owns a company out in California. They're entrepreneurs, obviously. So, you know, being around that, I think has helped me a lot, and not just, hey, trying to kind of find my own path and obviously making those mistakes of, you know, whatever it may be. So you're spot on, man.
Yeah, I think that you was breeded to be an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
Like most people say, you know, you can just be an entrepreneur as you get older. But if you see this constantly growing up, to see the same cycle, eventually history repeats itself, whether it's good or bad. And luckily for you, my friend, I think that you got the good enough to transaction.
Absolutely. It's I had that, and then obviously, I mean, you know, like entrepreneurship isn't for everybody, right? So I had that, I saw it, and I saw the alternative. It's like, look, I can do this. I can, you know, obviously what we're doing, it sucks, right? To be honest, I believe it's harder than the traditional route of going to school and then, you know, but my thing is like, since I saw that was possible, why would I take the traditional route?
Right.
Again, getting a degree and then obviously going into the traditional 9-to-5 world, which again, I didn't see that being satisfactory to me. So I just think it's one of those things where I've been hungry for it. And thankfully I've been blessed enough to have that opportunity to follow a path, you know? So yeah, man.
So what was that conversation like with your parents saying, hey, I'm going to defer not going to continue my education in college, and I'm going to double down on this entrepreneur stuff?
Yeah, well, so I actually never went to college, right? So basically straight out of high school, I started wholesaling real estate in high school, right? So I literally started
straight out of high school to the pros.
Yeah, man. Literally, I started an LLC with my brother, and my brother at the time, he was 20 years old, and I said, hey, look, Stuart, can you sign these contracts? I'll do all the work, and I'll just give you a fee for each contract you sign. So I was homeschooled, so I had the time to be able to talk to Miss Sally at 1:30 in the middle of the day. So my parents knew that I was making money. Obviously, I would literally wholesale deals to them, make 16, 20, 30 grand. And so they knew I was making the money. And like, oh, well, what's the reason, right? You know what you're doing. So to be honest, I don't even think we ever sat down and formally talked about it. And I never said, hey guys, I'm not going to college. Just kind of like, they knew, like, yeah, he's not going to do it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man.
So okay, you start wholesaling. Let's go back to your wholesaling operation. How was you, like, 14, 15 years old? What were some of the things you did to really understand what wholesaling was? What kind of education that you're giving yourself at the early age in your career?
Great question. So for me, starting out, it was one of those things where obviously I heard about the concept from my parents, right? They said, oh yeah, there's this thing, that it's called, basically find the property, get on a contract, and sell it to somebody that wants it more. And so I said, okay, interesting. So I started to go to just our local RIA meetings with them because they would network with other wholesalers. They would actually be buying deals from other wholesalers, right? but they didn't actually wholesale themselves. So I couldn't like say, oh, how do I market, do this and that from them. I had to still kind of learn that myself, right? So basically, obviously going to RIA meetings, you kind of hear about different concepts, Spanish signs, lists, letters, all that stuff. Stuff that I didn't really want to do. It sounded, letters sounded pretty expensive. It didn't sound like something that, I wanted to do, right? So I said, all right, well, let me go on good old YouTube University. Came across guys, obviously, I think you may have heard of Kent Clothier, Sean Terry, like that. Came across those guys, heard about, obviously came across Max Maxwell. So I kind of, again, YouTube University helped me to say, oh, I learned about cold calling, right? From when I learned about cold calling. I think at the time, RVMs were just starting to kind of kick off. So what I started to do was just cold call. And bottom line, the only thing I needed to cold call was Mojo. And I pulled a list from like List Source and I skip trace it, right? That's all I had. That's the only tools I knew about. I watched one video of one guy cold calling and I just basically wrote down my own script and I started calling, right? It took me about 4.5 months. I would make, 400 calls a day. And from there, that's what got me my first deal and kind of really hadn't looked back since. And from there, I've added other marketing streams to, again, compound our efforts.
Awesome. And what's your current market? Like, I know you're from South Carolina, but what area in South Carolina that you currently focus on?
The upstate of South Carolina. So Greenville, South Carolina, just the old upstate. So honestly, we do deals everywhere. We've done deals in North Carolina and Mississippi, but what we're actively marketing to is the upstate of South Carolina.
That's awesome. And let's talk about VAs. Like, how does Willie Coleman effectively manage VA? Because I don't think you never bought any of my products to teach you how to do VA. So let's talk about how you effectively manage VAs.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I I probably should buy some of your products because I think last year we went through about 15 VAs. So
wow,
it's not fun by any means, but I think a combination of how you hire in the beginning really helps in the long end, obviously, as you know. But bottom line is, we create, we use CRMs. We create weekly goals for the VAs, or really weekly. I shouldn't say goals. Weekly expectations, right? A lot of people, kind of say, oh, they're making X amount of calls. They're doing this. That's great. But if they're making 800 calls in a day and they're not getting you any leads, then the numbers aren't any good for us, right? So we have X amount of calls that they need to make, right? So for our callers, they need to make 800 calls a day, and they need to produce us at least 4 to 5 appointments that are quality for us to be able to work from there. So basically, that's when I hire them. I said, look, I understand cold calling. There's ups and downs, but as long as I see you're constantly trying to get better, you're constantly bringing me, objections if we haven't talked about it before on the front end. And I tell them, like, oh, we're numbers driven, right? We're expectation driven. So if you meet these numbers, and if you're not meeting these numbers, let me know. And I'm going to do everything in my power to help you meet those numbers. From there, if they're continuing to do that for a month, 2 months, they stay on the team. If not, they know they have to move on, right? We're not a good fit. So basically, that's pretty much it. We do weekly meetings with our VAs. Real simple. We go over the numbers from the previous week. We talk about what we're doing the next week, and just kind of again go from there, right? So I'm a very simple person. I'm not the best numbers guy. I'm not the best guy to keep up with every little thing and the KPIs and stuff like that. So it's like, look, did we get at least 20 leads this week? How did we do on the calls, et cetera, et cetera? And from there, that's kind of how I'm managing it. Am I doing it right or am I completely wrong?
Nah, you perfect, brother. At what point in time you realized that, hey, I need to hire me a few VAs? Because that's what a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah. So honestly, it was when I started to hate doing it. I hate marketing. I hate talking to sellers hours. I hate cold calling, right? So as soon as I saw that, look, I know what I'm doing. I think a lot of people will say, hey, I've cold called for 2 weeks and I hate it. I'm gonna hire somebody. That's not what I'm saying. I started to get deals from talking to people. Whether I was doing it right or not, who knows? Well, I probably wasn't back then, but it was probably about 6 or 7 months after I had started cold calling is when I brought on a VA in the Philippines, because simply my time was being divided in, hey, going to look at properties and going to, obviously network with other people and just all types of things. I said, look, I need to delegate this, right? There's somebody that can literally do this for six $6.50 an hour. Why the heck am I doing this when I'm making, $1,000 an hour, right? That's literally how I'm looking at it, right? So the reality was, when I knew what I was doing, I knew how I could tell somebody how to do it. And my time was not being used to the fullest that it could have been used to. So that's when I hired. That first VA I hired was with me for about 6 months. And again, my thing was I knew that it could have worked out or it couldn't have, but either way I would learn from that hire. And that hire ended up being somebody that was basically just stealing hours. They were, pressing dial on the mojo. They weren't really calling. So again,
let's talk about that. Because I literally just had to fire a VA night before last. And I'm really private about my business, but sometimes I believe if you be transparent enough, you can save someone else for failing in the same capacity you just failed. Mm-hmm. And I just, I don't know if you use Hubstaff, but thank God for Hubstaff, right? Hubstaff keeps everybody, really been on point. And I was up 1 o'clock in the morning, bullshitting, going through my Hubstaff. And I see this VA talking to another company. You can literally see their faces like on my clock, so I'm matching the time clock. Like, hold on, she's interviewing with another company on my time clock, and I'm checking her schedule. Like, hey, she's supposed to be training up the VA. So I kind of went off, like, So she told me whatever excuse, the reason why she's doing it, and I said, listen, man, I'm not big on excuses. Whatever the issues was, we took care of that, right? And I'm just real big on honesty. Like when you managing people from 8,000 miles away, the only thing you have is integrity, respect, and honesty. That's the only thing that's gluing the relationship together.
That's right.
And, I literally had to terminate her right on the spot. We replaced her within a few minutes because we have a pool of people that work with us, but her position was literally taken care of within a few minutes. So.
Wow.
Let's jump into preparation. Like, let's jump into how vast are you if someone on your team quit? What procedures do you feel you have in place if somebody quit, God forbid, get ill, and they can't perform for you or work for your company anymore? What are some things that you put in place to ensure that the operation don't stop just because one person exits the operation?
I love it. Great question. So what we do is, I've had a leads manager with me for the past 2.5 years, right? That leads manager, her role is to simply, obviously follow with leads, filter leads, and set things on the calendar, right? And also manage some other marketing things we got going on. But she also knows how to do every single thing when it relates to getting motivated sellers, right? She knows how to cold call. She knows how to manage our RVMs. She knows how to manage our texting. So basically, let's pretend that both of the callers that we have right now are no longer with us tomorrow. Bottom line is, obviously for us, we've used so many services to find VAs for us. Obviously the next step is, okay, find another VA. However, we're very slow to hire, fast to let go, right? So it may be, if these cold callers leave tomorrow, it may take us a month. It may take us, a month and a half to get somebody new, right? So again, we're trying to find somebody new, but as soon as we find somebody, basically we'll get on a Zoom call if they're a good fit, hire them on, and then Laverne, my leads manager, will basically train that person to get them up to par. And again, once they're up to par, we get rolling from there, right? We never have anybody in a role that the way our business is structured. Like I said, we wholesale and we fix and flip, right? So right now we're working on 5 properties that we're going to be hitting the retail market. So the reality is, if our cold callers leave, then yes, lead generation will go down. We'll do less wholesale deals, but it's okay because we have all these flips going and we're good, right? So again, for to be honest, we don't have a structure of, okay, this is exactly where we're going to go to get a VA, because it takes time, right, to interview people, make sure they're a good fit, make sure we're not wasting time having them on our team, bringing them in and showing them all of our systems, right? So, we take some time and we look at things and we say, look, do we need to bring on another person right now? Can we handle the bandwidth, right? Can I personally handle, more leads, right? If we bring on, 2 more people. So it just depends on what we have going on. But honestly, the good thing is I made sure that, again, my leads manager is on point with everything. Basically, she works directly with us. And this girl is loyal as crap. So basically, if that were to happen tomorrow, she would bring on somebody new and we would go from there.
Yeah, I like it. I like it how you kind of double down on one person you know is really strong and really help let her be your quarterback. So
Yeah,
you say your
and
operation.
like I think when we talked in Houston, this was late last year. You're the one that actually influenced me to make. You're like, dude, you need to get somebody that is your head VA, and and basically, and I had somebody at the time. I was like, that makes a lot of sense, and that trains.
I remember that conversation. I just didn't want to bring it up. I like for people to bring it up.
You're the dude that made it happen.
Yeah, I remember that conversation. I remember giving you that advice, man. I'm glad you took it. Most times, you tell people something go out of one ear, come out the other, and they don't listen. Yeah. But I'm glad you took that advice. Absolutely. So I'm happy to see it's working for you. So let's talk about some effective marketing. What are some things that you're doing that's working for you right now in today's current market?
So honestly, what's working for us today is what's been working for us for the past few years, right? We're still calling. Here's the thing. As you know, it all works, but for us, I personally think that like whatever you do, as long as you're all in, it's going to work. But for us, what we do is we call, we text, and we RVM, right? That's it, right? So, obviously right now, people are kind of weird, right? Sellers are like, I don't want you to come to my house, this, that, the other. So honestly, our numbers are kind of all over the place each day, right? We may have a killer calling day, and then, tomorrow texting is going crazy.
Right.
We're doing all three, right? The same person that will call, we'll also send them an RVM. The same person that we RVM, if it's a cell phone, we'll also drop them a text. So that's been working for us very well. Between all that, we get about, like I said, we try to get about 4 to 5 appointments a day. From there, then what we'll do is, like I said, a lot of sellers here aren't willing to meet up, right? They're either scared, obviously of the virus, for their safety, our safety. So from there, we're literally hopping on Zoom appointments with these sellers, to be able to
Zoom appointments?
Zoom appointments, yeah.
Man, that's the nugget. I didn't even think about that one.
Yeah. So literally, my leads manager, she'll be like, hey, can you hop on a Zoom appointment similar to like FaceTime with my acquisitions manager, Will, and basically you guys will be able to see each other just like he's at the house. And while you're there, you can also show him around the house. So we'll have them do that.
Man, that's amazing nugget. Yeah. Man, I ain't heard that before, man. And I'm usually thinking outside the box too, but I ain't even think about that.
Yeah, man. And my thing is with the Zoom appointments, it's like, obviously you have sellers that aren't able to do it. So we'll just do a standard, if they're, older, if they don't have a device, we'll just do a standard phone appointment. But the great thing about Zoom, it's like you're able to see each other. Like when it comes to negotiating, you're able to kind of see exactly how they're looking, their facial expressions. Like, again, you're able to connect a lot better, obviously face-to-face versus phone call. So we started doing that probably about 2.5 months ago when everything kind of really started to get bad. And we're still doing it to this day. And it's working pretty well.
That's awesome. And what do you see yourself like? What's the game plan? Okay, are you building a rental portfolio with all this cash you're making, or are you just investing into like stocks?
Yeah,
other volatile assets.
So what I'm doing, my game plan is like I'm like for example, like for a lot of our flips, we'll just raise a lot of private capital because there's just so much capital. Typically, we're not using our own funds unless we're at at the wire and we just need to get something done real quick. But for me, I'm really passionate about tech, right? The tech industry. My brother has a startup in California, right? So I invest in, I do a lot of angel investments in companies that are that I see could be the next Facebook, right? So that's what I do, and of course, we I think we have 2 Subject 2 deals that we didn't raise private capital on. So we'll, for example, those are rentals. So we'll just put, some cash in there just to get it working. But honestly, I'm building this business so I can do other things, right? I'm, like I said, tech is kind of what I've been looking at right now. So not necessarily stocks, but angel investments. And then from there, again, we will use our own cash if it's needed on projects.
So angel investing, like how do you secure like your investment? Like,
yeah,
basically do before you invest.
Yeah, great question. So basically, with angel investments, there's a few ways to do it, right? Some people do, for example, if I invest, $20,000 into my brother's company real time, right? Basically, I can do it one of 2 ways. I can get a safe, which basically says, hey, Willie Coleman, funds are secured by this safe. That's also filed with the state and says I have, 20,000 shares, right, of the company. And then there's another way to do it that's basically like a convertible note, similar to like how we do notes in real estate. Basically says that, look, I invest $20,000 and Real Time is responsible to pay it back in 2 years. And then, or if they don't pay it back, then it'll be converted into shares, right? Like stock. So there's a few ways to do it. The way I do it is just safe. I just like to get shares of the company, especially with companies that I see are going to be huge. So I've invested in probably about 3 companies like that so far. And again, because real estate's great and I like it, but I'm not like, it's not what I want to be doing in 15 years from now, right? I want to build this company up, get it to autopilot to where I'm just getting a report every other day, and kind of doing whatever the heck I want, right? Because again, I haven't really found that number one passion yet, but right now I'm just, again, with the market still rolling, it's just like, hey, stack the bread up,
But you gotta understand, brother, you're 19. You life just getting started. So for you to be so far ahead, you know what I mean? You said something to me earlier. You homeschool. We was homeschool. What drove your parents to making that decision?
Well, honestly, I when we were kids, right? When me and my brother were kids, we would move a lot, right? My parents used to be in the military back in the day.
Oh, if you're a military, bro.
Yeah.
I got you.
We would move a lot, all over the country. I was born in New Mexico, so I think that was kind of the number one decision. And then obviously, again, they didn't necessarily like the practices of public schools and stuff like that. And my mom was like, let me just do it, homeschool them. And that's kind of how they got there.
Yeah. So we actually homeschool our boys too. So it's good to know that we on the same track like your parents with our children. We want them to grow up and be responsible children. We want them to grow up to be assets to society. We don't want them growing up to be a waste of other people's time. So that's very important to instill all of these things.
Yeah.
Oh, what advice could you?
I probably wouldn't be where I am today, to be honest.
I agree. What advice could you give the struggling newbie? Right. What? Because you're 19 years old, and what that translates to me is that if he can do it, anybody can do it.
That's right.
Because listen, the one thing I don't do, I take age out of the equation and say, just because you're 19, that don't mean you can't be running a company. Just because you're 18 or 15, that don't mean you don't have the mental capacity to be doing what 30-year-olds are doing. I think that when you add age into the equation, it gives you a crush to be lazy. So, when I was 16, 17, I was working and doing my thing, and I never really made excuses. So what advice could you give somebody right now, whether they're young or older, who's just starting in real estate, that can really change the way they're running their business?
I like it. I think people put these limitations on themselves, whether they're like, oh, I'm in this stage of my life, I'm at that stage of my life. The reality is, it's like, as long as you train your muscle to know what you want to do, right? So if your thing is, look, I want to get into real estate, I want to be able to wholesale. Okay, the number one way to do that is just by talking to people, right? And the reality is, just train your muscle to do that, right? I think people, again, like, they're putting these limiting beliefs, like, well, I can't sign a contract. Like, for me, I couldn't sign a contract. That right there could have just been like, knocked me out, and just go keep doing whatever you're gonna do, right? Like, no, get resourceful, right? Tony Robbins says it's never like a resources, but resourcefulness, right? Get resourceful, get on YouTube, search Max Maxwell, go look at all these videos, and then literally go do it, right? There's so many things that I talk to so many people each day, and they're like, well, Willie, this, that, the other, well, this, that, the other. I'm just like, okay, I have school, I have a full-time job. Okay, well, what are you doing with your other hours, right? Well, why are you watching Netflix? You could literally be on YouTube right now watching Antoine's videos, right? Like, or Facebook, like, whatever. Like, it's just like, people just don't do. That's honestly what it is. And I hate to be so simple with it, but I think that's what it is. It's like, if half the people I talk to, and the people that complain about not being able to do things, it's like, I look at their time and what they're doing. It's like, you're literally just not doing anything, right? You're not taking action, not just by watching videos, but then from doing what you learned from that video, and go get a system, right? Go put out some bandit signs, whatever it may be. It's like, just get resourceful and do, and that's the number one thing I think people lack, is just by taking massive action.
Yeah, I think because I talk to a lot of people too on a day-to-day basis, and when I sum it up to the average person I talk to, you got two types of people. You got people who has money who just want to pay their way to success, and then you got people who don't have money, but they have a scarcity mindset and they're not being resourceful enough, like you said. And I think it boils down to just people being education junkies. They're not taking what they're learning and applying it immediately. Because the thing is, the brain, like you say, is a muscle. And once you learn something, you should start exercising that technique immediately so it could become a habit within you. And I think that that's why a lot of people struggle, because they jump from webinar to webinar to webinar to event, and they apply zero knowledge.
Right.
And now they mad and they on Facebook crying that they spent $2,000-3,000 this year, and they're upset. And the reason why, they haven't applied any of the knowledge that they learned.
Yeah, spot on. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, like if I could, you know, like you said, if he can do it, I can do it. That's right. But, you know, you can if you're not going to do what I'm doing, right? I do the things that other people are not willing to do. Other people are not willing to, you know, get yelled at for 4 months straight and not get any money or not even get close to a deal, right? Most people are not willing to do that, right? So I say to people like, look, when you feel like, you know, oh my God, this is hard, it doesn't work, you know, that's the difference between, you know, guys like me and you, between the guys that, you know, aren't doing it. It's just we do what others aren't willing to do, you know?
Right. I agree. So what is one thing that you must accomplish in the next decade? You know, it's 2020. It's 2020 right now, right? What do you want to accomplish before 2030 rolls around?
That's a good question. Ooh. Before 2030 comes around, what I want to accomplish? It's such a long time. When people ask me those like long questions, just like, I don't know. Like, if you would have asked me what I want to accomplish like 5 years ago, I wouldn't have told you where I am now. So it's like, I think like I told you earlier, it's kind of really building this business to an actual business. You know, because right now it's still a job, right? If I don't show up tomorrow, it's gonna fail, right? But obviously, I see myself doing that within a year or 2 years max, right? Not in 10 years. So like 10 years, I don't know, man. I want to go to the moon, maybe. I don't know, like.
Hey, man, I say it all the time. I said as like a saying, like, man, we about to go to the moon. I don't physically want to go to the moon, but mentally, like, because the moon is a place that we all glorify, but we only been there several times. It puzzles me why we don't continue to go to the moon if we ever went to the moon. So that's why I always say, man, I'm about to go to the moon. So yeah, I think so. I'm gonna switch it on you. So for me, in 10 years, what I want for myself, right? You know, I like this real estate wholesaling stuff, and I like real estate, but I just don't think that that's it. That's not my finish line. There's so much that I can do in my life. There's so many people I can touch in this world that I will be selfish just saying, hey, I want to be as the best wholesaler. I in fact don't even pride myself on being the best wholesaler. I don't pride myself on being the best closer. I don't even pride myself on being the best entrepreneur. The one thing I pride myself on is being one of the best innovators and the best thinkers. To be able to take an idea from scratch, watch it as a baby grow up and blossom, and to be able to give you, you know, a return such as money, happiness, whatever that may be. So I say 10 years from now, so here's a few things I let out there. I want to own a mountain, right? An actual entire mountain.
Right.
I want to own, you know, a resort. I want to be able to feed every person in the country that's homeless, right? I want to be able to provide housing and shelter to like homeless people within our country. Our country's so big on helping people outside the country that if you drive down the street in your local city, you're going to see people laying on the bus stops and the sidewalks. Why are we not helping them people yet? So I want to be one of the guys in real estate that's really big on philanthropy when it comes to helping other people. But in order to do that, I got to be a lean money making machine. So I think that's really important.
It's fire, man.
So you know, we talked about you doing angel investing. We talked about your wholesaling, you know, real estate. What does a typical day look like for you? Like, are you a man of habits, or do you just freestyle? You just wake up and just do whatever's on your mind?
You know, I've tried both ways, right? And honestly, I have different things on my calendar, right? So for today, I have, I think, 2 or 3, you know, seller appointments with sellers, obviously. So I'm just going to hop on the phone with them for 30 minutes, try to get the deal locked up and go from there. In between that time, I may have, on average, say 4 or 5 of those appointments. In between that time, like, for example, we're doing 5 houses right now. So I'm going to go check up. And by the way, on these flips, some of these flips, I'm partnering with my parents. So what I'll do is my parents will do like the design. My mom will like do the design. My dad used to build houses, so he'll kind of do the, line up the framer and stuff like that. So basically, I'll just kind of go check them on those flips. I like to, a lot of people say, when they're driving around, they like to drive for dollars. I like to drive for resources, right? What does that mean? That basically means, if I'm driving around and I see a house that somebody's flipping, I'll stop at that house, right? I'll get the guys, the contractors' phone numbers, right? Because obviously we're always, just like anything else in our business, we want to keep our pipeline full, right? So we may have 3 plumbers that we use consistently, but sometimes, it may be a heyday for them and you can't get them on the phone to get to your property. So basically I'm constantly building that up, right? We constantly like to have backup contractors, so I drive for resources on my way to appointments, on my way to kind of check on our flips. And that's kind of pretty much my structure. I'll do things, interviews like this. I'm not really big on social media or doing interviews, but throughout the day, I may do one or 2 of these every few weeks. But yeah, it's kind of freestyling kind of throughout the, talking with sellers. And again, these days, obviously there's more time than ever because things aren't really even open, or things are opening now. But, these days, that's kind of my day.
Man, that's awesome. You live a life like a rock star, it seems like to me. You don't really have nobody breathing down your throat. You're not really a slave to a job or in school. You're making great money. You're providing opportunities to people by hiring local contractors, working with virtual assistants.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if I was 19 years old and I was in your predicament, I would be very proud of myself. You know what I mean? When I was 19 years old, I was doing well myself too. I was working in a hotel, making almost $63,000 a year in salary.
Nice.
And I was managing people twice my age. And that was really, let's talk about that real quick. That's a good question. Let's talk about managing people twice your age. Because I'm pretty sure you got subcontractors and contractors that you got to deal with. What do you do to, deal with all these different personalities?
Well, I think so I started like getting involved with flips about 1.5 years ago-ish, give or take. So at that point, my like kind of understanding different people's personalities, understanding, hey, don't say this to this guy, say that to this guy, kind of this is how you talk to this guy. It really helped being on the wholesale side because I would talk to all types of personality types dealing with sellers, right? I think managing these guys, it's one of those things where I don't know. They obviously see that I'm young. They see that, all right, well, okay. Sometimes, obviously when you're younger than the actual guy, people fear that it'll be a weird relationship or they won't respect you and things like that.
Right.
Like, just like on our wholesaling side, how I set expectations for, our VAs, we set expectations for the contractor. So like, hey, look, this is the job we have. I have 50 other people that can take this opportunity. If you want it, this is when we need to get it done. This is the budget. Would you like to do it? And they say yes or no. We have a great working relationship. We like to set the expectations at the beginning. Like, obviously, a lot of times people, kind of will be all over the place with, hey, they won't ask, hey, when do you want to get paid? When will we be able to pay you, right? Like, we set those expectations. Hey, once this is done, you'll get a draw. Hey, once that's done, laying out the materials and labor. Just, again, kind of, I say a lot of times, just knowing my stuff when talking with these guys, not being like, oh, like kind of not letting them just boss you around. Like, hey, this is what we need. This is what we need to do. And then kind of controlling the scenario where, again, the reality is you need to control the scenario because it's your property and we're the ones having to pay money on it each day, right? Because we have a private lender. So it's one of those things where I tell them, like, look, get it done this amount of time. If not, we'll use the next guy, right? So it's kind of, again, it's not this relationship of, hey, we're buddy pals for contractors because, again, we're not friends. Like, we're doing business together, right? So, again, I've dealt with people that don't take that serious and they're like, oh, like a lot of times they won't ask me my age, but they can see I'm pretty young, right? So, again, just dealing with people that are actually willing to get work done and not kind of just fooling around and trying to take advantage of you, right? Because that happens a lot in this business of contractors and other people that try to take advantage of you for whatever reason. So
I think even your age, that's not really the main factor. You got to understand the dynamics of a contractor. first of all, me, I got 4 houses going on right now.
Mm.
2, I try to stay underneath 5 at a time. I don't want to go past 5.
Are you
Until
guys
I
doing
actually
anything yourself, or do you have a project manager?
IGC currently until we get all these houses flipped, and then the next wave of profits we're just set to the side for project manager salary to come in and help me. But yeah, so I try not, I try dealing with here's the thing about dealing with contractors. They, first of all, not to talk bad about any contractors who may be watching, most contractors are bad with money, right?
Mhm.
They take, they float in different jobs. They're all over the place and not organized. So it's almost like you're babysitting. And we try to find sufficient people to work with, even on our fix and flip business, the wholesaling business. All businesses is compromised with great people, and the more great people you have around you, the more likely you're going to be successful. So I'm really an advocate in investing in people, like training. Like, I don't know about you, but I put all my team to like Cotton University. Like, I think that's very important. Especially when you're on the phones and stuff, that's very important to get that training. Because my take is, what's the point of trying to train people on a specific thing or learn a specific thing when you got something out the box for $97 a month? Hey, go watch this. Have a nice day. Now, there's some core stuff that I like to personally teach them that you can get at a prepackaged Cardone University type. Now, I focus on that. But to sum it up, like, what do you think are your strengths, and what are some of the weaknesses that you don't mind delegating?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously, anything to do with, like I told you, I used to do demolition on my parents' properties, right? So, like, obviously, a thing to delegate is pretty much the fix and flip side from A to Z, right? So, again, it used to, if we were to do the house ourselves, it would take us, 6 months to get it done. But if we were to pay somebody to do it, obviously, we're delegating that, right? As far as like kind of the other side, as far as marketing and stuff, I'm pretty good at on the phones with sellers, on the phones with buyers and stuff like that. But it's one of those things where I can't efficiently constantly raise private capital, right? Constantly,
Right.
Network with other wholesalers, get on the phones with those guys, build more relationships.
Right.
But I think my biggest weakness is having, it's kind of, I would say, and I think this is probably unfortunately going to always be a problem, but like I told you, we went through 15 VAs last year, right? It's kind of really getting our hiring system down on the side of kind of, it's that balance of saying, hey, we don't want to bring anybody in too soon because we don't want to make a rush decision, and then also we don't want to wait forever because we have to keep marketing. So it's like, again, what we really need to create a better system of, hey, this is the hiring process. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take this VA through this funnel and do this, whatever. I think that would probably be the biggest thing. But other than that, that's probably our biggest struggle right now.
Yeah, I think even for me, like, that's the whole point of me creating my company called V1 Marketing Training, which is it's a training and recruitment agency. It's not just a typical VA company. We specialize in taking care of clients like yourself, where we go out and find them right people. We're matching with your personality. We'll do all the back end training, and then we'll onboard them into your exact system, and your turnover rate will literally drop by at least 80%. You know what I mean? There might still gonna be some turnover because that's just the thing about hiring people. Like, you don't know. People can fake a interview. People can be, there's a lot of people out there faking phony now. So if they could be faking phony with you personally, they can definitely be faking phony on the interview.
Right.
So I just think that someone like yourself should outsource. Whether it's me or anybody else, you should outsource that particular process. Okay, I know that I need high quality callers. Let me go hire somebody like Antoine Company to do that. Let me pay them their little fee, their $500 to deal with all the mess that I don't have time to do, because my core strength is raising money and bringing capital into the business, which ultimately should be a representation of your bottom line, which is profit.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's my recommendation.
I love it. Yeah, let's talk about that afterwards. I meant to switch a question up on you that you asked me earlier. What does your day-to-day look like these days?
My day-to-day, so, okay, I just got executive assistant, so it's kind of getting a little organized, but my day-to-day is crazy. I work from like 9 in the morning to like 9 at night, Monday through Saturday. So typically I wake up, I talk to the children. I do a little homeschooling with them. I go over some stuff. I talk to the wife, right? I don't eat breakfast in the morning. I check my calendar to see what's going on. First of all, I go to the bathroom, get in the shower, all that stuff. But the first thing I do when I wake up is I check all my bank accounts. Okay, well, where I'm at, what's going on with the money, how much I made yesterday, how much I got to spend today, and okay, then I use that to kind of like facilitate my day. Then I have a meeting with the team. Sometimes I do a lot of one-on-ones, like 10, 15-minute conversations. I have 14 employees right now, exactly. So you got to give them their individualized time. You have group settings with them, but you got to be a master at giving them that individualized time and making them feel special, right? So I meet with everybody. Typically, I don't meet with everybody every day. Every other day, I meet with a couple of people from the team. And then I'm giving them their targets. I'm like, hey, what's going on with the leads? What's going on with these contracts? What's going on with this? What's going on with my schedule? What's going on with the VA business? How many people are waiting for VAs? How many people pay so far? How many people pending? I need to know all of that because I'm the guy that's sitting up in the booth calling down the plays. Like, I'm not really in my business like I used to be. I'm like on the outside. So after I leave the house, I typically go to Pennsylvania. I go to Pennsylvania or I stay around here in Maryland. And I'm just up there, looking at the projects we're working on and just really building out the next phase of our company, which is our turnkey business. So, that's my day. On the weekends, I'm very adamant on taking off at least Sunday. Sometimes I try to take off Saturdays, but most of the time I'm off on weekends. I like to grill. I make sure I spend time with myself. On Tuesdays mornings at 10 o'clock, I don't care what's going on. I'm talking to my therapist. That's very important to me. Mental health is very important, especially when you're dealing with a lot of personalities. It can be very mentally straining. And Sundays, I'm grilling. I'm chilling with the wife. Even we on the road somewhere, going somewhere, or we at home relaxing.
Right. You're always, that's the thing. So you're running all this business. Then you're helping other people's businesses. Then you're speaking. Then you're doing this. So
yeah,
I got you, Ed. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you live in Maryland, but your properties are in Pennsylvania, or your foot.
Yeah, I live in Maryland. Most of my properties in Pennsylvania, and I'm looking to expand down into the Carolinas, as well as Pennsylvania. That's my plan for the next 12 months.
Awesome.
Yep. Any final things you want to leave the people with? Anything you got? You working on? Anything you coming out with?
Yeah.
Any announcements?
Yeah, I'm very again, like I don't share a lot on social media, so honestly, just I want to say thank you to you. All of your advice. Again, when we had that one-on-one back in Houston last year, I want to say thank you for that. Thank you for having me on today. And again, I think people just gotta focus, gotta keep their heads down, keep going. People obviously during this time of life, I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, things aren't working right now." Things are working great. I mean, we had a flip on the market that was on a contract within 12 hours. So keep going. Buyers are still buying. So while that's still happening, keep rolling. So, again, thank you, Antone, and I appreciate your time, man, and thanks for having me on today.
I appreciate you. Any books that you can recommend somebody reading?
Yeah, I would say one of my favorite books is, a few books. It's one called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I think that's great for mindset. And then obviously for negotiations, you've heard of it, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. The last one, The Go-Giver. So those three books, I think I read those probably about 2 or 3 years ago. And those are still principles that we do in our business today.
Man, that's awesome, man. Ladies and gentlemen, Willie Coleman. How can people reach out to you? You got an IG, you got a Facebook, obviously.
Yeah, reach out to me on Facebook. I'm not the most active. I apologize on social media, but hit me up on Facebook, Willie Coleman. On Instagram, it's willie.coleman.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you. Hopefully we can have a chance to talk more. I always enjoy the conversation, man, you have. Thank you so much for coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Willie. Tomorrow on Nothing But Nuggets, I will be having RJ Bates from the DFW area. Look out for that show. He does deals virtually in some really odd places. Alaska, Hawaii. Like, he's making money in all these crazy places. But I'm telling you, if he can make money in remote locations like that, there shows a lot of opportunities in your backyard. So look out for that show. I think we're going live at 1 o'clock. I'm always stuck at the Home Depot until we get this project manager. But I like when it comes to this real estate stuff, far as fixing and flipping, I like to be hands-on. I think the details is what sell houses. So, you know, that's why I like to be hands-on with that type of stuff. But
Okay.
I appreciate you, brother. I ain't gonna waste too much of your time, man. Catch you later, man. If you need Willie, reach out to him. He's a young brother, man. He's 19 years old. He's very humble, and he knows his shit. So reach out to him if you need some advice.
Thanks, brother. Bye-bye.